boys and girls. It's a nice sunny morning this morning. You know, my, there's so much to tell and so little time to do it. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1843. I was known as a very intelligent and very energetic woman. My family moved to Racine when I was 15 years old. My father was a very prominent businessman. This is where I met William Upham. Now, I didn't call him William, I called him Will, so I'll call him Will, okay? We met at church, and we went to school together, so we indeed were high school sweethearts. Will went off to war when he was 18, and I went off to medical school, and I received my MD degree. Now, that was very unusual in those days for women to go to medical school. When word came back that Will was killed, I was so sad and I mourned. But there was a happy ending because Will was not dead, and after he graduated from West Point, we had a wonderful courtship, and we were married on December 19th, 1867 in a double ceremony. My father encouraged and helped Will to become involved in the lumber business. And so we moved north to Kewanee, and then we moved to a little tiny place called Angelica that was in the heart of the great pine forest. And we were there 6 years. Now, you know what? It was such hard work there. And I boarded some men and cooked for them. You know what? There weren't any shingles on the outside of our house. But you know, inside we were so happy. There was so much cheer in that household. Then in 1878, we came to Marshfield. It was a rough pioneer town. And there were wild animals and there were Indians here. Will built a store, and we lived above that store for 2.5 years. Then Will built me a wonderful big house that, like he had seen in the Civil War in the South. Can you guess what house that? Yes, Upham Mansion, and it's still standing today. And we in Marshfield should be very proud of that house and that home. And you know what? We always welcomed people into our home. You know, Mother Upham, Will's mother, said, what you do, you start the town with the church. And so that's what we did. We and 14 other people organized the First Presbyterian Church. And then I started the first Sunday school in Marshfield. And I had a class of boys, and how I loved those class of boys. One of the first things I did also was to organize an organization which was called the Women's Christian Temperance Union. And that was an organization that was formed to inform people about the evils and ills of alcohol and how damaging it was to their minds and to their bodies. And so the ladies and I, in the winter time, in our organization, would go out into the lumber camps, and we would distribute Bibles and literature to those rough lumbermen. Education was very near and dear to my heart. And you know, I started the first library in the city of Marshfield. And for a time, the library was in our home. But then it outgrew our home, and it was moved in various buildings downtown until a new city hall was built. There was a lot of sickness in those days, and there were many times I would get a knock on my door, and a child would say, can you come and help my mother? She's ill. Or a mother would say, oh, can you please come? My child is sick. Or even more serious sometimes was there were accidents in the mill, and men would lose their fingers or their hands or something. And so I would have to minister to them and doctor them also. And you know, God has been very much with me, because you know, I never doctored a death. Now, where did I find out all these things? From Mary's diary. So I have Mary's diary, and she wrote all of these things down. Then, on that fateful day of June 27th, 1887, the town was bustling as usual. But then, the men were getting ready to go home for lunch. They went home to dinner. It was called dinner. And they went home to dinner in those days. And so they'd hitched up their horses, and the whistle had rung. Well, they never even got out of the plant. And the whistle screamed again, but this time it was fire. And so, on that fateful day, the city of Marshfield burned, in the whole center of the town burnt. And by 7 o'clock that night, there was only ashes left. And so you heard Will talk about how he raised the flag, and Marshfield rebuilt, and we're still here today. So, and you know what else happened? You know, Will was so industrious and energetic. He went to Massachusetts, and he got a turbine and came back to Marshfield. And you know, we had electric lights in Marshfield before anybody else in the state of Wisconsin. And you know what? We had electric lights in our house. But of course, when the fire came, it burned. But he went back to Massachusetts, got more turbines, and then we had lights again. So that's a milestone for Marshfield. After Will retired, we had, of course, we spent many happy hours and days in Madison, and I loved the culture there, but Will really missed Marshfield, and so we came back. And so, you know what? Will was such a good husband that in the summer times, or the winter times, he would take me sleighing every day if the weather was good. And in the summertime, we would go on picnics every week to Ebby Park. So we had just wonderful years together. In 1912, I was developing heart failure, and I developed pneumonia, and so I passed away. And at my funeral, the Reverend Melvin Laird said that he hoped at some future time that the citizens of this community would honor this lady in a way that was fitting to her for all the wonderful things that she did in the city of Marshfield. And so I only touched on just a few. And I want to tell you something else. I read in her diary just a couple of days ago. She mentioned that in 1903, that it would be known as the year of the rains, and that there were no gardens, and there was no summer. So let's hope we don't have a repeat of that this year. But we are here today to honor Mary Kelly Upham. Thank you.